Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, so I'm a pretty big fan of speedrunning in video games. And a couple times a year, I spend a lot of time watching speedruns. Actually, I watch speedruns all throughout the year, but there are two really special times each year. And those are these kind of big conventions, these big marathons that they have called Games Done Quick. And the two big ones are Summer Games Done Quick and Awesome Games Done Quick. And these are week-long events where some of the best video game speedrunners in the world get together and they try to beat as many games as they can as fast as possible while raising money for a charity. Usually it's Doctors Without Borders. But I love watching people just absolutely demolish video games, learning the intricacies of video games in and out, and showing off their skills. And there's always kind of some great triumphant moments. For those of you who maybe don't know what a speedrun is when somebody plays a video game and tries to beat it or tries to accomplish a certain goal as quickly as possible in as little time as possible. And there are various kinds of speedruns. There are various categories and challenges. People can do it without glitching the game, without breaking the game. People can do it by totally glitching out the game and totally breaking the game. I like the ones with the fewest number of glitches, but there are all kinds of different categories that people compete in and try to hold world records in. And it's really fun. It's kind of, I know this is maybe kind of sad for some people, but it's kind of my sport. I watch it like some people watch football or baseball or something like that. However, I say all of that because today we are taking a look at Super Hazard Quest. And this is a little kind of board game, card game that is emulating the style of old 8 or 16-bit side-scrolling video games. And it does contain some glitching, and it kind of feels like you are playing a glitched speed run of a video game on your table. And actually, I would love to see a game like this more embrace that kind of speed run subculture and use some of the terminology from the video game speedrun subculture in its tabletop presence. I think that would be really cool. And this game does that in some of the mechanisms, but it doesn't embrace that subculture. So this is the first video in two back-to-back where we're going to focus on some pixel art small box games. And the next game we'll take a look at in the next video is actually Unreliable Wizard and its expansion, the Unstable Spirit Towers. And then I think soon we're also going to do a showdown between pixel art small box games that will include Super Hazard Quest and Unreliable Wizard, as well as two games that we've already taken a look at before, and that is the Fire of Eidolon and Minotaur. So I think it will be fun to do kind of a comparative review, comparative analysis of all four of those small box games that have pixel art. So Super Hazard Quest, let's read a little bit about that here. 8 legendary heroes clash against a new enemy and each other. I should mention that we are taking a look at the base game today and the single player expansion. The base game I got on Amazon, and the expansion you have to get at their website. I think it's Puppet Arcade is the name of the company. I just Googled Super Hazard Quest and expansion and found it. And so you can get the little single player expansion. I think it's only $5 or $6. It doesn't come with a lot of stuff, but it works. All right, so let's see. Super Hazard Quest is a tabletop game inspired by the classic age of video game side-scrollers. I know you've probably heard that before, right? 8-bit art and retro-inspired games are pretty popular these days, but Super Hazard Quest not only references classic video games, it plays like one too. Heroes build and explore an ever-changing randomly generated level. Along their adventure, they will discover new items, tackle enemies, and beat powerful bosses. But their most dangerous threats are other heroes who will be the first player to defeat the final boss and take the glory. It's all the fun of multiplayer retro gaming without ever having to blow into a cartridge. Okay, yeah, so that's a nice little reference there for us oldies. But basically, the game is kind of it's a very light, kind of a randomly generated dungeon crawl where you are moving from one room to the next, and the rooms are like video game stages. And you have a bunch of different stages, and the stages have numbers like the old Mario games. But you have all these different stages, and each of the stages will have a checkpoint, and that's where you start your turn each time. You're trying to get from one checkpoint to the next on the cards. And when you get to the checkpoint, you then go down to the floor and you have to move left or right and up and down from these spaces. And each one of these spaces will have certain things that you need, certain actions that you have to take to bypass that space. So for instance, here to move to the next dungeon over, you have to have a lift card. So you can lift that portcullis and go through there. You have to defend yourself against the turrets. You have to dig down or climb up. Defend, you have to unlock that door. Sometimes you might have to attack, stomp, hide. So one of the things you're trying to do, or the main thing you're trying to do, is to defeat one of the bosses. And those bosses are called scramblers. And there's a red scrambler and a blue scrambler. And to defeat the boss, you have to land on that boss with a matching crystal. And the way that you get crystals is by defeating certain mini bosses. And to defeat a mini boss, you have to do a whole bunch of the right actions in a row. So to defeat this mini boss, you have to have a stomp or attack, stomp, hide, and so on. But there are all kinds of different stages based off your kind of typical video game things. We have our lava levels, our castle levels. We have our pagoda level, kind of like the old Kung Fu video game. Here we have some forests. There's our red scrambler. And then those are kind of our Cloud Kingdom and our standard 1-1 Mario, our Mushroom Kingdom there. So those are all of the cards here. And right now what you're seeing on the board here is the end of my game setup where I actually won against the AI bot called the Robot Wizard, the Magibot. And he is in the single player expansion. And so this bot is kind of a glitched AI. And he just moves around, or it moves around from checkpoint to checkpoint, trying to get powered up so it can defeat the bosses, the mini bosses, and then defeat the boss. And you have to do that before the AI does. So the main way you play the game is through a deck of action cards. And these are actions and items. And these will allow you to perform the various actions that you need to progress through the cards. And they will also allow you to manipulate those actions to override those actions, so they will require different actions. And that's kind of where that glitched speed run theme comes through in this game, because you may not be able to lift this portcullis because you don't have a lift action in your hand, but you might have a directional hazard card. And you can play this to override that lift with a different action. And so there are, let's see if I can lift this up here without disturbing it. There are a number of different chits, these kind of override chits. So we have directional hazards and combat hazards. And you can play these on top of existing actions to require them to take different actions. And I think that's really cool. And that's where it does get that kind of glitched speed run theme going on. I wish they kind of maybe would have embraced that terminology a little bit more. I think that would have been really cool to sell this as a speed running video game on your tabletop. So if you ever are confused with how to move on a card, we do have this demo stage here, and that tells you the directions that you need to move in, that you need to encounter the spaces in. So it's a pretty simple game. At the beginning of the game, each of the heroes or each of the characters is going to pick a hero. And of course, we have all of the different kind of, they're all based off of various video games. So we have the Mighty Gorilla there. We have Samus there, the Alien Hunter. We have Ninja Gaiden there, Ryu, right? Was that his name? Ryu Hayawasa, I think. The Stealth Ninja. We have the Polish the Polish Carpenter. We have the Kung Fu Champion and the Floaty Princess. And then I was playing here as the Elf of Legend. And each one of these different characters will have an action that they can do as many times. So there are 8 different actions that you have to take to explore the levels: climbing, digging, unlocking, and lifting. And then there are combat hazards: stomp, attack, defend, and hide. So 8 different actions, 8 different heroes, and each one of those heroes is able to do one of those actions an unlimited number of times during their turn. And then on each turn, you will start with a hand of 5 cards, and then you can play those cards. Now, if you're ever able to play your entire hand while moving from one checkpoint to another, that's called a super leap. You've done a great turn, and you can kind of glitch out the game even further by immediately jumping to another checkpoint on the adjacent checkpoint that you landed on. So that's really cool. It rewards you for clever card play and for putting together good combinations. And there are a whole bunch of different types of items. We have these items like boxing gloves will allow you to do a lift and an attack. Or we have a purple potion, magic. It's a wild card you can use for any action. Diamond shield, that's a super defend. You get unlimited use of the defend action during your turn. A charm necklace. And then there are also these green cards, and these are special cards. When you use one of these green super items, that immediately ends your turn. And on a turn, you can take 2 different kinds of turns. You can take a standard turn, and that's when you play action cards to move. Or you can take a discard turn where you discard any of the cards in your hand and draw new cards, just in case you don't have the actions that you need to. You can take one more kind of major action, and that's called a look action. And when you're on a checkpoint, you can take a look action, and you can look at an adjacent card from the dungeon deck so you can kind of explore a little bit. Because if you ever run into dead ends, or there are a couple other ways that you can get wounded, and if you get wounded, you have to go back to your last checkpoint. And another way you can get wounded is this game does have PvP. So if players land on top of each other, they can fight. And then if you get wounded, if you are holding any crystals in your inventory, you will also lose those crystals, and you will have to get another crystal in order to defeat the boss. So overall, I think this game is pretty fun. I've had a good time with it when I've played it. It's very simple. It's very light. The solo mode is okay. I don't think I would recommend this game purely for solo. I think this game is probably best played with a bunch of friends, probably with some beer and pretzels. It's a total beer and pretzels game, especially if your friends have some nostalgia for old video games. There is some take that elements because of the way you can change the way that the cards are encountered, so you can kind of screw over your opponents, and yeah, that can be fun. So let's do a little setup here, and we'll talk a little bit about how the game is played, and we'll talk also a little bit about the solo mode. So the solo mode does come with, you get your Magibot chip here, and this is where you'll keep track of the character on the board. And then you get a whole bunch of these Magibot power cards, and you mix these into your item deck. And these will power up the enemy AI, allowing them to take additional movements on their turn, so they'll be able to cover more of the board as they power up. And when they land on a mini boss or a boss, they spend one of their power-ups in order to defeat that mini boss or that boss. And so these are kind of kept out on the table to show the power level of the AI. And you can mix a certain number of these into your item deck. And the more of these that are in your item deck, the harder the game is going to be. I think it comes with 10. And it recommends as a beginner level to mix 4 into your item deck. And I have 4 of them mixed into the item deck there. And it was a pretty tight game, my last game. The AI was about to destroy the Sky Sorceress here and get the blue crystal, and the blue boss was right here, but I was just able to beat them to that. So let's shuffle up the item deck here. Okay, and then we'll take all of the cards here, all of the dungeon cards for our last dungeon, and we'll give those a shuffle, and we will play a couple turns so you can kind of see how that works. Okay, so let's draw a character at random. I'll just kind of shuffle up these chits here, and okay, so we are playing as the Kung Fu Champion. So the Kung Fu Champion, of course, looks like from Street Fighter 2. He can take unlimited attack action, so that is his special action. And then we have our Magibot. I have 4 of the Magibot power-up cards in the item deck, And our level is blank right now. Our video game level is blank. So let's draw our starting tile. Okay, it's a boss, so we discard that and we will shuffle that back in. And we are starting on stage 9-2, the Blizzard Bluff. Okay, we'll put that down there. Let's shuffle that boss back in to the dungeon deck. Put that off to the side. And then our character starts on the checkpoint there. And then we will draw our starting hand of 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully we don't get any Magic Bot power-up cards. I had one game where the first turn, the AI was already powered up to +2. And that was very tough. Okay, so we have Sticky Boots. I can do a stomp and a climb action. They laughed when the shoemaker nailed plungers to his shoe. They gasped when he walked on the ceiling. So you can do a one-time use of a stomp and or a climb action. We have robot legs. That's a stomp and a lift action. A one-time use of one of those or each of those. You should lift with your knees. And with robot knees, you can lift almost anything. We have the camo gloves, a lift and a hide. Hey, look, that guy has no hands. Oh, wait, he's just wearing camouflage gloves. We have robot arms, a super lift, unlimited use of lift actions, the standard lift arm model rather than the right arm plasma cannon or left arm model. And here we have our trap door. The trap door will allow us to move from one checkpoint to the next, but that will end our turn. Now, some of the item cards don't make a lot of sense in solo mode, and so whenever I draw one of those, I just discard it and draw another one. There aren't a lot, but there are a few. So we're starting at the checkpoint here. So the first thing we do on a turn is we go down to the level, and now we have to choose if we want to encounter the lift space or the defend space. So let's see. I don't think I have a way to defend. I do not. I can lift, though. So I'm going to play this on my table there for my hand. So I will go down to the bottom. I will encounter this lift space, and then I will draw the next card in the dungeon deck. Okay, so there we go. Now, you don't have to encounter the space that you are entering the dungeon on. You only encounter the movement hazards when you are moving in the direction of the arrow. So we've unlocked that. We have a lift. So now we move into this space. So this space here is blank. So to progress, we can either go down to dig, we can go up for a climb, or we can continue on to the lift, or we could end our turn on the checkpoint. So let's see here. We're trying to find a mini boss so we can defeat the mini boss and get one of those crystals. I have a climb here. I think I will play the climb down here, and I will move up to climb. And then I will draw the next tile in our dungeon here. And now we have the Sunset City. And we have a defend, blank, and the checkpoint there. Now, let's see. I don't have any defend, so I think I take damage from... I can't progress there. I can't move back down because... Let's see. I don't have another dig. So yeah, so that is unfortunate. So I will take damage because I can't progress to the next checkpoint. I can't dig back down because I don't have a dig. So I have taken a point of damage. So I will move back to my original checkpoint. Now, if I had a crystal in my possession, I would discard that crystal now. So these cards are discarded, and now it is the enemy AI's turn. And he always starts at the checkpoint that we started the game on. And then the enemy AI has a certain flow that he does, and depending on the state of the board, it will take certain actions. So no crystal mini bosses are revealed. Correct. Magibot attempts to reach the same checkpoint as the player. Well, I'm back at my original checkpoint, so the AI is already there. And if so, it goes into Dungeon Explore mode. And I can he right now is not powered up, so he can only take one turn. And so he will explore adjacent. And it always starts, I think it's up, left, right, and down. So he will explore up. Turn this over, and it is stage 9-1. Oh, that's kind of cool. These stages mix. And so because he can only move once, he will move up and he will stop there. Now, if he was powered up with 2 additional moves, he could actually move back on me and then continue to explore the dungeon. So in AI mode, I think it's pretty smart that they added that, where the enemy can actually help you explore the dungeon to get more tiles out, because that is a kind of a thing with these kinds of games, that when you are playing solo, you don't have as many options out on the board. So I think that was pretty smart. So then it would be my turn again, and I would draw up to 5 cards here. And now we have combat hazard, we have a protective key, another trap door, a robot arm, or robot legs. So this combat hazard, I can actually play over one of these in order to change it. So let's drop down here. Let's do that. I will play this combat hazard, and I will pick, let's see, pick any combat hazard and play it over an existing combat or a blank hazard space. So I'm going to play that, and I'm going to change that defend to an attack. And then my special power is I can do unlimited attack. So I will attack, and then I will go to this unlock space. And I will play my protective key, which gives me the ability to unlock. I will unlock that door. I will draw the next card here. And it is stage 11-3, the Frustrating Fortress. So we move on to that stage, and then the checkpoint is right there. So I will end my turn on the checkpoint. And then we will draw up to 5 cards. So I will draw 2 more. And there is our Magibot power up. And so that gets added to the Magibot's hand there. So he has 1 power up. So now the Magibot can take 2 actions. So on its turn, the first thing, if there's no boss, there's no mini boss, there's no crystal on the board, he tries to get to your space, and he can move 2 spaces now because he's powered up. So 1, 2. All right, so they are now with us. And you kind of just keep playing the game like that until you find a mini boss. You can defeat it. You get either a red crystal or a blue crystal, and you find one of the bosses in order to defeat the boss. It's a very simple game. It kind of invokes that sense of nostalgia. I think the art is pretty good. I like the art on the cards. I like the flavor text. I do like some of the pixel art on the dungeon cards. I wish there was a little more variety, because a lot of the cards are kind of a lot of the art is used over and over again. But I guess that is also kind of standard for a video game of this era. And there is quite a bit of game packed in this little box. It's pretty easy to learn. I think it would really excel as just kind of a party, take that game, maybe a game to play at the end of the night once everybody is kind of tired playing more heavy games. I have enjoyed my time with it solo, but I don't think I would recommend this just for a solo game unless you're just looking for something that is really light, that you can play quickly, and maybe you are really into pixel art, and maybe you are really into kind of 8-bit and 16-bit side-scrolling video games. You might get a lot out of this game. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at Super Hazard Quest. And remember, coming up in the next episode, I believe, we'll take a look at Unreliable Wizard. So have a good one. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.